lines. The ones that are based on full harmonics arise out of what are called master events, and these are called Rouchat timelines. Now, some of these probability subharmonics or harmonics are called turnstiles, and these are polarized. And these are dual event lines from which you can either accelerate up or rapidly decelerate down. So that's why they're called turnstiles, because they can go either up or down really fast. So these are the ones that are the turnstiles. 1, 3, 6, 9, and 12. Do the next one. Now these are actually really tricky, and they're really important choice points, because the way that it works is, say you're at 3 and you're in the midst of a master event, you need to make a choice that is either going to increase your frequency and consciousness rapidly or drop you back down rapidly. If you're able to make the choice that increases your frequency, you will rapidly jump all the way up from the 3rd probability to the 6th, and you will bypass 4 and 5. If you do not, you will go all the way back down to 1. And this is true even if you're at 9. If you're at 9 and you're capable of making the leap, you'll go up to 12. If not, you're going to fall all the way back down to 1.
And then you start going to 2 and 4?
Yes.
Or go to 3?
Yeah, and if you fall back down to 1, and you are then out of that possibility time, you're kind of out of the leap possibility moment, then you got to crawl back up.
But it's a way to go 4 to 3, 6.
Yeah.
Which way you go then? 1, 3, 6 again, or you go 1, 2, 3, 4?
It just depends on what is happening in the planet at that time and what is available to you. So a little farther on, we're going to see essentially a chart of Rouchat and Rouchat shifts that are occurring regularly on the planet. We've got a bunch of these time cycles going. So we're in the midst of a period of time in which a lot of these are available to us. So it's like we have a possibility of tremendously accelerated evolution if we make the Christiac choices that are actually going to increase our frequency. And what I think is really interesting about those particular probability lines is they actually represent the Amareya pathway in the blueprint. Because you can see, they go 3, 6, 9, 12. That's the blue flame line. So all these Rouchat and Rouchat shifts represent huge acceleration. And all of these represent basically really rapid integration, if we can make the jumps, of whole densities of your consciousness in one jump. So it's not like you do harmonic universe 1 and then you kind of start at the bottom of harmonic universe 2. You could integrate your soul level and your oversoul level and your avatar level really fast if you can stay up with these time shifts.
So it means that ascension will be not to Tara level.
Wait, we have a
Ascension to Tara, Earth to Tara. But it's, the way you tell, you can ascend all the way to Gaia and higher.
Well, not only are we talking about just within the universal Cathara grid, but what's actually happening right now, which we are going to talk about more, is that superimposed on these time shifts, kind of think about it like, you've got your Merkabas and then you've got your bigger Merkabas. Merkabas. Like we've got our density 1 and density 2 Merkabas that are pretty little, and then our density 3 and density 4 Merkabas. Kind of encase those and funnel into them. It's like, think of it like a set of nesting funnels. We've actually got a whole series of nested time leap cycles plugging into each other. So we just started out with a certain level of Rusheya and Rushate shifts, and plugging into those are much bigger time shifts, way bigger time leaps. So we're talking about way out of the Veka into the Eka and Akasha A levels. Yeah, it's like way out. So, yeah, I know. And it's like, we're just sort of limping along in our half-hosted flame one bodies going, okay. All right. Okay, so the natural progression from one probability subharmonic to the next is just like frequency accretion in a regular time cycle. It's very slow, minute. It does accelerate through the time cycle because each, frequency band is bigger than the one before it. And along with that, you get a very slow acceleration in the planetary Merkaba field spin. So that's just part of your organic dynamics of your regular time cycles. We've got here what are called the hypertime leaps, the Rusheya and the Rushate probability timelines. What happens with that is a very rapid spike in your Merkaba spin speed, which creates a temporary acceleration of the planetary time pulse. And that condenses time and creates the experience of time slowing, expanding, or standing still for the planetary light field. And the way actually that these time shifts work is, if we're gonna just say like, we're leaping from here up to here, from this level up to this level, is we would accelerate way high and then drop back down to this level. So you have just a huge acceleration of the Merkaba, and then it comes back in and locks back down at this spin speed. And naturally enough, going through these creates a little bit of stress on the biology. Leading to all the very interesting experiences that I'm sure we could talk about for 4 or 5 hours. So every single time shift, whether it is part of just the regular, slower time cycles or part of the leap cycles, they all involve an acceleration of the Merkaba field and the time pulse, and then a deceleration until you get co-resonance with the new timeline, and you enter phase lock with that. However, the Christiac time cycles offer the opportunity for leaps in consciousness at different points in the time cycles, but what I'm calling sextant time does not contain these leap cycle opportunities. And what happens is that it circles around the same frequency range that is entirely due to the lack of backflow through the seed atom. So essentially what we're talking about is that the end of that cycle in time, when you have created all the frequency, you are matching the frequency of that center flame. The matching of the frequency and the matching of the charge allows consciousness to pass through that and leap up to the next level. And the dynamic that allows that is what is called backflow. That is, the consciousness flowed outward from source down into manifestation, and then the backflow is from the manifestation back up toward source. And that then allows source to reset a brand new flow for a whole new time cycle. My experience of sextant time is that it is basically lack consciousness and essentially an inability to give back to source. That is, I experience backflow as the ability to essentially take everything that you have accreted in frequency and consciousness and give it back up to source, which then allows source to give the gift back again. So it's kind of like where sextant time makes its mistake is it says, I don't want to give back. I'm going to keep all this myself, and you can't have any. And it essentially, that is what it keeps it locked in time, because it can never leap up to the next level. It gets up to a certain point, and then it has to start all over again, because it doesn't get anything new.
This is where we get into the attitudes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. When consciousness enters a manifestation, including a whole time matrix, for the first time, it has to walk through time the slow way and reassemble itself through the organic, slow cycles of time. So essentially, through the stair-step creation model, source has to fragment itself into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces to get its consciousness into all the different dimensions. And to exit from the time matrix and have the possibility of ascension, you need to pull all those pieces back together. You need to pull all that frequency and consciousness back into a single form by walking through the cycles of time until you can exit the time matrix. But once you do that, you acquire what are called capstone codes. And if you should choose to come back into a time matrix for manifestation, those codes come back with you. And what that does is that allows you a lot of freedom with regard to time. And it makes your relationship to time much more flexible, because you have within you now, encoded in your own template, in your DNA, the codes that go with every single one of those time cycles. Because you walked it and you earned it, so it's in your template now. And you hold everything in that time matrix, and lots of things that can be outside of the time matrix as well in terms of the sound fields. So that's what indigos are, is they have walked through the time matrix at least once, achieved some level of ascension into the sound fields, and have the codes of those time cycles available in the body. And they're available in the body for a specific purpose, like to help out a planet that doesn't have that time code. And when the stellar activation cycle comes, you can activate it in your body and assist the planet by bringing in a time pulse that it doesn't have. And for every single creation, there is a timeline in which everything goes perfectly. And basically, it's like the time matrix gets set, and everything makes the Christiac choice every single moment of time, and the whole thing reassembles itself in one time cycle and just pops right off and returns to at one in one cycle. That reality is actually indelibly held as a possibility in the template, and it can be activated in your reality. That's the heroic probability. And that probability connects through the 12th harmonics and the 12 subharmonics of every single timeline and probability line, all the way back to the original point of creation for any manifestation, such as our Eka system. So when we're talking about the heroic probability, there are lots and lots of levels of that, and you can essentially travel that up as far as you can. Okay. Now, in terms of the time cycles, these diagrams represent the phasing of the arcs and the breath cycles. And every single manifestation goes through this phasing process. This is the initial, just begin phasing, hop on into manifestation. Goes through many, many cycles of this before it reaches a leap cycle point at which the anatolia, the athanatolia, and the full flash off and demanifestation out of that entire creation are possible. So these normally occur during the leap cycles at the very end, when all of the organic time cycles have completed and the creation has completely assembled through many, 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 many cycles of sparking. It's completely assembled the charge equal to the flame with which that creation was originally made. And then it can go through the totally merging leap cycles and flashing off points. However, there are also beings and levels of being which hold these aspects eternally. And I remember Ash speaking specifically of the Iyani being able to hold a state of anatolia perpetually and living in a state of anatolia. And my understanding is that there's also levels of being that hold this level of merging. I think that the flash-off state is held in the sound fields. That is, it's a perpetual at-one-ment that's not actually in manifestation, but it holds the full joining. So we're just talking a little bit about the time waves that you can have in your own body, and your personal breathing rates control the rising and falling momentum of your ethos pillar and the phasing of your lotus arcs. And that controls the movement of your monadic flames and your radon cells, basically the central flames out of which you're made, and the cells of consciousness in which you can manifest. And we've got then the speed and frequency of the pulses that are released out of the monad, the rate of your shield spin, and how fast your particle phase, your base pulse rhythms, and your personal time wave. Now, in terms of breathing, fast breathing keeps you locked into the fight or flight mechanism. And my experience of that is that lowers your consciousness. It decreases the amount of free will choice that you have. Because when you're locked into that, which is a basically very instinctive, reflective kind of mechanism, you're responding more automatically and subconsciously, so you're not using the potential of consciousness that you have. So what you really want to be doing, and you'll notice almost always when we do techniques, is we are slowing the breath down to increase the amount of time and frequency in the moments that you have available to you, and to get you out of automatic responding into activation of your consciousness and activation of your free will choice. So you're not doing something automatically out of a little subconscious program. You have plenty of time and plenty of consciousness to really choose what you're going to do.
I just wanted to ask, when I do the techniques and breathe, that delicious consciousness, when you're doing the techniques for private breathing at the beginning of the day, makes a big difference in how I feel after.
Yeah, it really does. Okay, that's good. Now, this is kind of interesting, and it's just some information that I stumbled across totally accidentally when I was pulling together this module. Yeah, right, totally accidentally. But it hooked in so much to some Geelontic science information that I just thought I would put it out there just for you to kind of think about and consider. And what I discovered is that on this 3D level, there are actually genes called clock genes that control your time rhythm, and that control your circadian rhythm. The primary control area for those genes is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is just above the Adrana triangulation area in the brain, which is where the crystal dream seed is, which is where the Latoué lens is, which is where, it's a very crucial monadic connection right in that area that controls manifestation and our ability to have power and co-creative mastery over the manifestation. And interestingly enough, those genes are activated in that area of the brain directly by light coming in through the eyes, which I thought was fascinating, and then made me think a lot about what we're doing when we look at codes and when we do optical pineal induction of codes coming straight in through the eyes. It's probably helping really reprogram that area. And a last thing that I thought was really interesting about those clock genes is that they're thinking that they're really, really closely related to addictions. And for me, that seemed so perfect. I mean, so perfectly awful, really, because when I think about addictions, is that like totally locked into a time cycle or what? It's like where you do the same stupid thing 100,000 times and you can't escape it no matter how hard you try. So it just made me think about, we've got these really wacky, locked in clock genes going that do the same thing, and what we're really trying to do is get out of that and activate our leap cycles so that we can jump up a level and stop circling around the same thing.
The third point there, the reset of body time, feel light coming in from the eyes, like in this gene expression. Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Well, I don't know a lot more about that, but I just kind of wanted to put it out there for you all to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, I also see the relationship with the treatment of certain kinds of depression. There's a treatment of certain kinds of depression where you just let somebody skip a night. They need to be awake all night. And that's interesting also, relationship to what you just said here.
Well, how the light on at night, for example, affects the hormonal system. This is all tied in.
Yeah.
Is that, and I'm also thinking in view of hypnotherapy uses light pulsing to help people break out of patterns.
Yeah.
That is, and it's very effective treatment therapy.
I know, all kinds of pulsing makes me so nervous these days.
I know. But it is effective.
Yes.
It's very effective. So when you're saying resetting the body time, the light coming in through the eyes, I'm just wondering, you don't know any more than that about it.
Yeah, it just really makes me wonder, and normally, of course, it's normally reset by sunlight, which of course has a very particular frequency to it. So, it makes me wonder if everything was working, shall we say, a little better on this planet. We had very different frequency light coming into our eyes. what that might do to our biology.
I have,
Yeah.
I have one more thing to say. It was just spoken to me last night, so this is pertinent. And that is the idea of sun gazing. And this is something I haven't tried, so I don't know if it would work effectively, but I don't see why it wouldn't. But the whole point is to do, especially at peak time like sunrise, to stare at the sun for 10 seconds. And doing that over a period of time and reset your immune system in a balanced way.
What do you think about these ancient scientists?
Well, I do remember Ashana talking about frequencies coming through the sun that could actually be very beneficial. I don't remember when she said that, so I would want.
I'm not even the actual structure of the cell.
It's actually even more recently than that,
I remember
but what I could do, we might be able to research that and actually even put it out in the e-groups and people would remember what she said about that. Now, starburst response is one of those bigger funnel things that are kind of plugging into that Rusha-Te reset cycle. And starburst is a reset process of the time and dimensional spectra of our Eka-Veka system and its parallel that's coming from the Akasha level. And this is occurring in our system, one Rusha pillar at a time, so it's to maintain the integrity of our creation, because the amount of frequency in these pillars is absolutely huge. And as each pillar is reset, we get separation of the time waves occurring in that dimension. But the time waves continue to be bonded together in the dimensions above that until the starburst process is complete. The ascending time waves involve very rapid and intense time shifts. And it requires the active participation of indigos with multiple time codes activated in the templates to serve as buffers and transducers, that is, step downs, for the planetary life field. So without indigos on the planet, the starburst process would not be proceeding the same way that it is right now in this relatively gentle, so far away. Now, with regard to these time waves, we're actually in something that's called a time distortion field that's been present in this reality since about 570 billion years ago. And it's due to a configuration in the Veka monadic core of what's called a split bipolar twin star, which is essentially two time waves that got bonded together and are held together in the monadic core, but one is a Christiac wave and the other one is a descending wave. And those two have been bonded together for a really long time, and the starburst process is actually separating those out. Starburst process itself is really fascinating and intense, but essentially what it does is it shatters each dimension, and then because it breaks it down all the way into individual kelons, and then all the kelons that are capable of holding the Christiac pattern line up with the brand new pillar, which is from the Akasha level, and everything that cannot line up with that then goes into a descending compaction wave. The Akusha crystal is the very first kelon in the Akasha base shield, and is called the first creation code God seed memory crystal, and it's actually the heart of the genetic time code template for all biological forms. So that's actually where our fire codes and our genetic time codes ultimately plug into, is into the Akasha, this Ikusha crystal. And it serves as the core of the Christian eternal life clock. And this governs the patterns of all the quantum and the quarks and everything else that matter and time waves are composed of. And every single individual is connected indelibly to this Ikusha crystal. However, if you reach the point of monadic reversal, where your connection to your core flame closes and you can no longer receive and do backflow, primal life force currents to and from source, you will basically drop off the map of the Akusha crystal. It's called a dropping out of time. And there will no longer be a record of you after that point in time. But every single, remember the little now moments and the sparking of those little now moments? Every spark from every single one of those now moments goes up into this Akusha crystal and is stored there. So it holds the memory of every single moment of every single being in the entire creation. Yeah.
Now does each individual have an individual Akusha crystal that is embedded in the whole, or is it a common? Is it just a common Akusha crystal that just belongs to everything? You see what I'm saying?
I think it's actually a composite. You do have a record of you as an individual. However, that record of you as an individual is also connected to your entire family of consciousness and to every single other time, space, location where you are manifested. So the Akusha crystal governs what's called your distribution pattern. That is the consciousness that you connect into at that level. You know, it's a much bigger consciousness than you are here. So you distribute that amongst all the Akasha Ekavega systems. And all of those are connected to that point. So it's got a record of all the individual lines, but they're also connected up into a central point.
This is something we are connected to Akashic
Can I just, I know the Moroccan DVD is a good one for talking about the Akusha crystal. And I'm not going to say what we did there, but maybe I shouldn't. But can I? No. But we did.
She says no.
No, but it would be a good DVD to look at.
Oh, what's this again?
She's a
Moroccan DVD.
Okay. I also get the sense that we all carry that seed in our complex too. That drives us in with a larger.
And there's, I think it is one of the major techniques from India a year ago, which is recreating the Akusha crystal all around the physical body. And being able to recharge and reconnect with that crystal with every single breath and fill it with full 360 charge flame. So these are Voyager's time codes, and these are multiple and extremely rapidly accelerating compound time codes. Talk about a fast track. These are ones that were given 1 year ago here, and these essentially take us, we were talking about, we're not going just to Terra, but maybe Gaia and beyond. This is way beyond. This part of the code is called the Rapid Access Blue Lotus Monadic Voyage, and it takes us up into the Eka base shield. This level of the code takes us into the Akasha base shield, and this anchors us into the Akasha base shield. So that is straight up through the central Amaraya flame. That is a very straight, really rapid vertical ascent. Okay? So we're basically talking about, that 3, 6, 9, 12, straight into 13, and like supersonic. Okay. Okay, so this is basically the point of the whole thing. And then we're going to do a little technique. I'm considering the essence of backflow to be the sum total of your consciousness in this moment, right now, given back to Source as a gift of love. And that you're basically saying, okay, God, you and I made this with your energy, and everything that I am is made of your energy. Here you go. And that creates a possibility of then complete renewal of that energy. And I would say this is where the attitudes and responsibilities will really help you activate that highest probability so that you can ultimately transcend probability entirely, which is my understanding of what the hope worlds are. They're basically entirely beyond probability. So I thought what we might do is the Eros and Amaraya flame, technique 8A. And as we're doing that, really focusing on our now moment and our consciousness. So yeah, we need to read those. Okay, so how about that? Is there anybody in here who has not done flame body? Yay! Here, one doesn't. Well, if you have not, it might not fully activate for you, but we've got a really strong group in here, so it will be very beneficial. Enjoy it. I think I do want the next slide because I think it's at the Akasha. Yes, okay. All right. Okay, so let's all relax. And really take in the Akasha symbol so that you can fully visualize it in your mind, the center of your brain, at your pineal gland. And let's relax and slow our breathing down. Close the eyes, center yourself. Inhale and then forcefully exhale, pushing the Akasha Hierophant from the pineal into chakra 13 at Earth's core. Hold the breath for 3 to 4 seconds while imagining 3 tiny Kira-shaped flames, pale turquoise, pale yellow, and pale pink, gently bursting upward to surround the Akasha Hierophant. Inhale the Akasha with the 3 Kira-shaped flames surrounding it, upward to the Maharic Shield Center, 12 inches below the feet, and exhale forcefully while imagining the Akasha Hierophant and the 3 flames expanding outward on a horizontal plane throughout your pale silver Maharic Shield disc. As these flames and the Akasha move outward, imagine the Maharic Shield disc expanding outward to about 4 feet wide. Hold the breath for 3 to 4 seconds following the exhale. visualizing that the Maharic shield now vibrates as cycling currents of pale turquoise, pale yellow, and pale pink Ki-Rashe frequencies blend with the pale silver D12 Maharic current. Try to sense a gentle buzzing sensation as your Maharic shield frequencies accelerate in oscillation rate to carry the Ki-Rashe current. Inhale using the inhale breath to draw a ball of Ki-Rashe and pale silver frequencies into the center of your Maharic shield from the oscillating Maharic shield disc. The 4-foot Maharic shield disc remains extended while the Ki-Rashe Maharic ball collects in the center of the shield to reform a teardrop-shaped Ki-Rashe Akasha Hierophant. Exhale gently, imagining the reformed Ki-Rashe Akasha flame as a pale silver energized 3-dimensional Akasha teardrop, which pulses with a repeating cycle of pale turquoise, pale yellow, and pale pink bursts of light. This image of the Hierophant as a 3-dimensional Akasha teardrop with pulsating bursts of the Ki-Rashe color sequence will now be referred to as the Akasha flame. Inhale slowly, using the inhale breath to simultaneously draw 3 chords of Ki-Rashe frequency up from the Akasha flame to the Iambi point just below your navel. A thin cord of pale turquoise current extends into the chakra in the ball of your right foot. A thin cord of pale pink She current, D15 Ire, into the chakra in the ball in your left foot. And a cord of pale yellow Ra current, D14 Mane, extends directly up your central vertical current to the base chakra. Inhale these 3 Ki-Rashe currents up into the body at the same speed, imagining that the pale turquoise and pale pink currents run up the legs and then arc to the center of the body, merging with the pale yellow center current. All 3 currents joining at the Iambi point, just below the navel. Exhale gently while imagining that the meeting of the 3 Ki-Rashe chords forms a glowing emerald green crystal in the Iambi point. Inhale gently, using the inhale breath to draw the Akasha flame from the center of your Maharic shield up through the pale yellow cord and into the emerald green Ki-Rashe crystal at the Iambi. Exhale gently when the Akasha flame has entered the emerald green crystal. Try to sense a feeling of warmth or a slight buzzing sensation at the Iambi point. Now inhale a pale silver cord of D12 Maharic frequency up from chakra 13, drawing it into the Akasha flame within the emerald green crystal at the Iambi point. Exhale forcefully, while imagining that the Akasha flame and emerald green crystal pop, releasing the Ki-Rashe and Akasha flame frequencies into the Iambi point. Now breathe gently and imagine that a small, pale silver, indigo blue violet flame, about 2 inches high, spontaneously ignites within the Iambi point. This is the seat of the celestite crystal that houses the pale silver, indigo blue violet Eros flame. Activation of the Akasha flame the Kibra-she and Maharic currents within the Iambi releases the power of the Eros flame within the Iambi point. Now inhale, using the inhale breath to draw the Eros flame up the central vertical current and into the Azure point at the base of the thymus gland above the heart chakra. Exhale gently to deposit the Eros flame within the deep azure blue crystal at the Azure point. Inhale Maharic current up from Earth's core and into the pale silver indigo blue violet Eros flame at the Azure. Exhale forcefully to expand the Eros flame from within until it pops within the Azure point. The pale silver indigo blue violet Eros frequencies spread throughout the Azure. Breathe gently while imagining a small azure blue flame about 2 inches high that spontaneously ignites within the Azurite point. This is the seat of the Azurite crystal that, when fully activated, houses the radial body emerald Amareya flame. Inhale pale silver Maharic current up from chakra 13 into the small azurite flame. Exhale forcefully, using the breath to expand the azurite flame outward into the auric field, completely permeating and surrounding the physical body. Imagine that as the azurite flame expands outward, its color changes from deep azure blue to deep emerald green blue as the Manu, Mane, Ire frequencies of the full Amareya flame activate within the azure point. Continue to breathe gently while imagining that the deep emerald green blue Amareya flame continues to expand. Imagine the auric field forming a large, three-dimensional Akasha teardrop emerald flame with a pale silver indigo blue violet Eros silver sanctum lining all around the body. The base of the emerald Amareya flame expands downward to chakra 13 at Earth's core, while the tip expands upward to chakra 14, 36 inches above the head. Bring to mind the 4-foot-wide Maharic shield disc and imagine the emerald green Amareya flame is now fully expanded to encompass the Maharic shield. Now return your attention to the Azure point at the base of the thymus gland. Inhale pale silver Maharic current up from chakra 13 to form a small 2-inch high pale silver Maharic flame in the Azure. When you exhale, forcefully push this flame up from the Azure into the pineal gland at the center of the brain. Breathe gently and bring to your attention into the pineal gland. Imagine that the pale silver Maharic flame there holds 2 tiny crystals at its center that appear as sparks of light. One a vibrant violet of D7 frequency, the other metallic yellow gold of D8. Inhale Maharic current up from chakra 13 into the flame stationed in your pineal gland. Exhale forcefully, using the breath to fill the Maharic flame with a burst of Maharic current. Breathe easily and imagine that the violet and gold crystals within the flame vibrate for a moment, then burst into 2 tiny flames, one violet, one gold, within the 2-inch high Maharic flame. Inhale Maharic frequency up from chakra 13 and into Maharic flame at the pineal, and gently exhale this Maharic current. Now watch as the tiny gold and violet flames within the Maharic flame flare in a magenta pale pink flash as they depolarize and combine with the Maharic flame, forming a silvery pink sunburst of D12 and D15 frequency within the pineal gland. Inhale Maharic current up from chakra 13, and when you exhale, forcefully push the silvery pink sunburst vertically upward into chakra 14, 36 inches above the head. Inhale, drawing Maharic frequency all the way up to the silvery pink sunburst in chakra 14. Forcefully exhale the sunburst all the way down to chakra 13 and earth core. Inhale it rapidly up again to chakra 14. Down again to chakra 15. And then quickly up to the center of your Maharic shield. Exhale forcefully into the Maharic shield, pushing D12, D15 current through your Maharic shield disc from the spinning silvery pink sunburst sphere at the Maharic shield center. Imagine now that your Maharic shield is glowing as a 4-foot wide disc that repeatedly cycles waves of pale silver, emerald green, blue, and silver pink frequency throughout your entire body and auric field. And as we continue to sit for just a few additional moments, I'd like you to feel the activation of this Amareya flame and the Eros silver sanctum all around you. And use your intention and your imagination to expand your consciousness and to allow the energies of this fully activated flame to really activate your incarnate density 1 consciousness as fully as possible. What does it feel like to have every single bit of your incarnate level of consciousness activated, online, available to you for co-creative manifestation with Source?